This podcast is sponsored by our own company, Trails of History. Have you ever wanted to walk the historic battlefields of World War I or World War II? Whether you're looking for an exclusive private trip or a ticketed group tour, we guarantee an incredible experience where history truly comes alive. Step into the past, visit our website and contact us today to book your ultimate battlefield tour. Welcome to the Trails of History podcast. Today's guest is a good friend of ours, Andrew Biggio, a Marine veteran and Boston police officer who has spent over a decade honoring the veterans of wars. Andrew is the organizer behind the Boston Wounded Veterans Run and the author of The Rifle, a powerful collection of stories from over 400 World War II veterans whose memories were unlocked by simple act of holding a vintage M1 Garand rifle. But beyond the page, Andrew's mission is deeply personal. He actively brings these aging heroes back to Europe to walk their former battlefields, helping them to find closure and connections decades after the guns went silent. We're glad to talk with Andrew about his own service, his work with wounded warriors, and the incredible healing that happens when a veteran returns back to the ground where they once fought. Now, let's roll the intro.
Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force.
We went over and we crawled. If you stood up, you were dead.
Schulden tragen den Deutschen Staat, das Deutsche Reich.
What distance apart? This is Delta Papa 3.
We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
Sure.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Trails of History podcast, Andy. Welcome, glad to have you on.
Welcome. Welcome, all is good, yeah?
Are you trying to do a Dutch accent now or make fun of me?
No, if it was Dutch, you have to have the lisp.
Nee.
Yeah.
Nee.
Yes, ice from the Netherlands. I eat chocolate sprinkles on my toast.
Chocolate sprinkles on my toast. Oh, this is gonna be a podcast like that. Oh my god, this is gonna be good though.
Yeah.
But Andy, you doing good though?
England and America are going to team up against the Dutch.
Nee.
No, you're not doing good?
Nee. That's the only word in my 25 trips to Europe is the only word I've learned. Nee.
No. You know other words, but we cannot say that on the podcast.
No, every time I go to try to talk to a Dutch girl, it's nee.
Yes. Is that the language barrier or is that just you?
I think it's just me.
I think the problem being is you're usually 15 beers deep before talking to him.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, dude, we should have worn the helmets now. Yeah, let's do it. Keep it on the whole podcast, yeah? Oh, these have battle damage on it. Oh, shit, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, Andy, let's get into the podcast. Welcome. We start off every podcast with one question, and we end always with two questions. And in the middle, we have certain questions specifically for the person. So literally the first question is we want to get to know you a little bit more, and also for the viewers who don't know you. But I already did an introduction, the intro, so they know what you do and blah, blah, blah. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But the first thing I want to know about you is, like, how did you get interested in history? How is it possible that you have all that stuff behind you and got interested in World War II and history?
Oh, I thought this was a recap of the Normandy trip. If you were doing a professional podcast about me, I probably would have put a shirt on. But yeah. Okay, so damn.
Yeah, I threw you under the bus.
I was born very patriotic. It was just kind of instilled in me. It was something I always loved. And the parades when I was a kid, of watching the World War II veterans and the Vietnam veterans and the U.S. flag. I don't know. It was something I didn't even have to get taught. I just was born loving it. So then when I got a little older, I realized that each of my grandfathers had a brother killed in World War II. PFC Andrew Biggio who I'm named after, was killed in Italy, and then John Del Rossi, my other grandfather's brother, was killed in the Philippines. So then it really started when I got older. I started to really appreciate veterans and Memorial Day even more, knowing that my own family didn't come home from the wars. So that was kind of really the start of it. And then I made the decision, like in sixth grade, that I was going to go into the military. And then by the time I was in 8th grade, September 11th occurred. And then it was just like no question, I was going to go serve my country. And that was like the beginning. That was kind of like the fundamentals, building blocks of my story, of as far as like history goes.
Oh man, and then having your like grandfathers who fought in World War II, that probably gave it like the biggest boost, probably, didn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you'll see a lot of 10th Armored stuff behind me. My grandfather was in the 10th Armored Division. He was wounded December 30th in and around Bastogne. Everyone says that their grandparents were wounded in Bastogne. Mine actually was.
Yeah.
He was in Team O'Hara of the 10th Armored Division Combat Command B, 54th Armored Infantry Battalion, Company B. And they were the first ones in Bastogne. They were holding the roadblocks until the 101st Airborne could get dug in, set in, and then they all got surrounded together. So I have his original nuts letter behind me that he got when he was in the siege. So his brother was killed in the Philippines, and so he actually went and used his brother's first name, John. He went by John after the war in honor of his brother.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Oh wow, that's a real tribute to him. That's nice.
Yeah.
And you're carrying now his name, which is also like a great tribute to him. And I went to your house. I went to Boston, and I saw the name of your street is the Andrew Biggio Street, if I'm correct.
Andrew Biggio Square. Yeah,
Square.
PFC Andrew Biggio Square. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great honor. And you as well. Like you served yourself. You went into the Marines.
Mm-hmm.
And you served yourself over in the Middle East as well. Like, how did that boots on the ground experience in the Middle East change the way you looked at like history and the veterans? Like that must have did a big change.
Yeah, it's funny because I was always like, for me, I can say my point of view. When I was in the military wearing the uniform, I really didn't think much about the guys who served before me. I was just trying to get my own butt home and get home and get on my life, because I was 18, 19. I was in till I was about 25, I think. So I was in from 18 years old till about 24, 25, I think. And it was 6 years. So I was just like, I want to hurry up and get home. I want to go, chase girls around. I want to go party with my friends. So I wasn't really thinking about the patches I wore, the uniform I wore, and who served before me. So I got home. Then it was kind of like I realized the flag I was carrying and what unit I was with and what they did before Iraq and Afghanistan and stuff. So I was in the 1st Marine Division. I was in the 4th Marine Division, and there's a lot of history there between those units,
Yeah. A lot of history, a lot of Pacific history as well with those guys. Ever think of going to the Pacific and see those sites yourself?
Yeah, I do. I think the Pacific just requires a lot more time and energy. I am a full, my job is, this history stuff, the book stuff, the veteran stuff's not my full-time job. I've been a police officer for about 12 years now, I think. And so that's where I'll be retiring from. That's what pays my bills. That's what my weekly paycheck is from, So when I take those windows to take veterans back to Europe, it has to be when I'm on set vacation schedule with the city. It has to be when I have enough time off, personal days, swaps, that kind of thing. So the reason why I bring that up is because the Pacific's just going to take longer, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Pacific. You can't just pop there for a couple of days, right?
Right. So I'm on the East Coast. So Boston to Paris is 6 hours. That's it. And that's about the same time it takes to get to California. So for us to go to the Pacific for us from the Northeast to go to the Pacific, we have to go Boston to California, California to Hawaii, Hawaii to Guam, Guam to fucking Tarawa or Saipan or whatever. So
Yeah.
to do that, it's going to take a long time, and then to put veterans through that at that age just seems like a lot too.
No,
Yeah.
I think it's almost impossible to do veterans.
Logistically, that'd be a complete nightmare, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just going back to your military stuff, because you went out of the military and then all of a sudden you had this feeling that you want to do something for the buddies who were injured over in the Middle East, and you came up with the Boston Wounded Veterans Run, if I'm correct.
Yeah. So when I got home from my first tour in Iraq, I met a soldier from the 82nd Airborne who was also from Massachusetts, and he had some very devastating injuries. He needed a bicranial replacement surgery where they replace your whole skull with plastic. He was wounded in Tikrit, Iraq, by an IED. And I saw that both of his parents had to basically forfeit their jobs to take care of him 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He had to learn how to talk, learn how to walk. And that I saw that there was so much red tape with applying for benefits for him to get their housing modifications. It was such crap. And so I wanted to raise him some money, for a new roof, maybe some new carpeting, some help with his bathroom. So we did a motorcycle charity ride 16 years ago for him.
Yeah.
And about 300 bikers showed up, and we raised him, like $30,000 or something. And then I said, wow, this was a really great idea. Next year, we should do it for a different veteran and a different veteran. And then 16 years later, we have thousands of riders that show up to ride every year. We raise money for different wounded veterans, for housing modifications, transportation needs, recreational needs, help them pay off their debt. Anyone that was traumatically wounded or injured in Iraq, Afghanistan, or in training, we've helped over, I think, maybe 60, 65 different wounded veterans with my charity, and all the money goes to them. I do not collect a salary from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's insane because I was in Boston there as well during the last Wounded Veteran, and it was insane how big the event is, how organized it is as well, with the police, with the township itself, the amount of bikers that actually come through. It's you created something really, really big over there.
Yeah, it's been a real fun ride, and I've been doing it for 16 years. I'm going to take a break now, and I just want to focus now on my family, and then the book stuff. People want another book from me, so I'm working on a Vietnam book now, which that takes time,
Mm-hmm.
So, and the police job is demanding as hell. It's like I'm busy.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, like, how the hell does this guy find the time? That's crazy. But what you've done for those vets, that's an incredible story. You said then you're going to take a step back. I presume it'll still carry on. You'll just have less of a part involved.
Honestly, Sean, I wish it would just go on its own. I don't know. I haven't had anyone want to step up and say, hey, can I run it myself? I think, I think the organization itself, the nonprofit, we're going to keep alive, but I think the ride portion, we're going to give it a break, but no, I in 16 years, I've seen a lot of people come and go. I have a great team, but none of them on my team want to do it without me.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because the last time everybody was cheering your name and stuff, and you've really set something up there, and they see like the head of the snake be gone, and then the body doesn't operate anymore as it used to, or how people want it to operate, right? But you can always give it a few years of a break, and then if you find time again, who knows, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think for my own mental health, I need a break. I've taken on way too much. And the book, I never thought this rifle thing, right? So I was the wounded vet ride guy. I was never the rifle. everyone used to know me as the Boston's Wounded Veteran. Now the world knows me as the rifle, right? So it's like this whole rifle thing took on a life that I mean, a universe of something I would never expected. Here I am on a podcast in Holland.
How
Netherlands.
obviously going from the Wounded Vet run, how did the rifle project come around? Like, what was the light bulb moment that happened?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was kind of like a two-pronged thing. I had like it was like almost like a two-pronged thing. One was World War II veterans were coming to the motorcycle ride, right? So they were probably then in their late 80s or early 90s. They weren't like riding. Some of them would show up and be like, "Oh, I used to ride here. Take $100 for the wounded veterans." And I was like, "Wow, that's so neat that these guys want to come to this at their age." And then I guess I kind of got a little bit of survivor's guilt that I was named after someone who was killed in combat. And I started to feel bad when I was driving past Andrew Biggio Square every day. So it's like seeing your own name on a street sign, Andrew Biggio Square. Well, and I started to say, why am I the lucky one? Why do I get to carry on my life and have kids and live life and go to school and have a job and a career? And this Andrew Biggio took shrapnel through his stomach and lower back and died and bled out on a hill in Italy. So I said, it's time to do him some justice. And I started to read his last letters home to find out a little bit more about this kid and how much he loved the M1 rifle, the M1 Garand.
Yeah. So and then you came up with the idea to have to bring the rifle in, have veterans sign it, and then record their stories as well, because you do interviews with those World War II vets.
Yeah, and so I started to read his letters home, PFC Andrew Biggio, and he talked about his first letter was how much he enjoyed the M1 Garand and how great of a rifle it was, and he's writing home to his mother from basic training. And I said, I need to buy this rifle and hold what he held and feel what he felt. And then I thought, light bulb, I bought it. Now what? Why don't I take it to those guys that were coming to the Wounded Vet Run every year who were, and so I put it in their hands again, and it just, seeing them smile and raise it up to their shoulder. And I watched the transformation of a 90-year-old man turn to 18 years old again. And suddenly I started to forget about my survivor's guilt and my stresses. And I was just, oh, sign my rifle. I want to remember you and remember this moment about the Battle of Okinawa, because Joe Drago was the first World War II veteran to sign my rifle back in like 2015, 16 maybe. And I looked down at it and we talked about the Battle of Okinawa for like 3 hours. And I said, you know what, now I want to get someone from the Battle of the Bulge. And so I went and found a veteran from there. And then it just was like an obsession. How could I hit all parts of the war on this rifle? Battles, military occupational skills, theater, campaign. I tried to do the whole war on the rifle somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect that just snowballed, started off quite slow, and then all of a sudden it built momentum. And so the signatures are on there. When did the book idea come along?
Yeah, so social media started to explode on me, and then people were just dropping in my DM. So I used to have to sit there, read after action reports, pull names out of after action reports or morning reports, Google them to see if they were still alive, find an obituary. If I didn't find an obituary, I assumed there was a chance they were still alive, find their last address, write a letter to them, right? That's the way I used to do it. Get permission to visit them in fucking Skokie, Illinois, drive there on my own dime in my own car. You know what I mean? So once I started doing it that way and then putting them on the internet, it started to blow up, and then people would drop in my DMs. You should see my grandfather. You should see my neighbor. And Sean, I'll get to your question, but it wasn't always that easy, right? Because I was meeting guys that were lying about their service or all that other stuff because I was just jumping at every time someone said somebody was a World War II veteran. So when it came time to put a book together, I was like probably on my 20th signature. And it was Clarence Cormier from the 106th Infantry Division that made me write the book. His story about being captured at the Battle of Bulge and being shoved in a boxcar, a train, destined for Germany after getting captured. And 2 American P-47s see this German train and they're loving it. They're strafing it up and down, and they have no idea the train is packed of American POWs. They're killing their own guys. And I watched Clarence Cormier. Clarence Cormier told me that story at 93 years old, crying his eyes out at 93. And that changed my life. Seeing a 93-year-old man cry and relive that story. And his daughter grabbed me when I was leaving the apartment after interviewing him. And she said, I always knew my dad was a POW, but I've never heard that story. So right then and there, I decided to put pen to paper and write a book. I said, if his own daughter doesn't know the story, how many people across the world don't know that story? So,
oh man, and everybody. Sorry, go ahead.
I knew that was a long explanation, but that's why I wrote the book.
No, that's perfect, because that was also the sort of the follow-up question, because many World War II veterans, they keep that information for themselves, right? For like 70 years, 80 years, nobody in the family knows about it, and then all of a sudden this guy, Andrew Biggio, comes up to their house and all of a sudden they spill the whole story to you. Why do you think is that? Why do they open up to you as a fellow American soldier, tell their whole story while their family could not get anything out of them?
Yeah, I've had some of the biggest authors, biggest historians reach out to me in the prime of me doing this and be like, how do you meet this many veterans? How do you get them? Where'd you find this guy? And definitely being a veteran helped. They opened up from one veteran to another. And also, I'm not afraid to really say it, that I guilt tripped a lot of the veterans I interviewed, because there were times where they didn't want to talk or maybe not want to be interviewed on camera. And I would say, well, this is your chance to help the next set of veterans live a successful life through combat like you did. Here you are, you're 95, you're 96, 90 years old. You're the oldest group of veterans in America right now. The next group is coming up, the Iraq, Afghanistan guys. Here's your chance to tell your story, and that'll help them. And almost every veteran agreed with me and talked. And so it was, it just took off. When I would write these letters to these guys and tell them and show them pictures, hey, I'm a veteran, I'm a Marine, I'm on a mission. The person I'm named after was killed in the war, and I'm writing a book on how to live a successful life after the military, and they all agreed. Of the nearly 500 World War II veterans I interviewed, I only had one that put his foot down and said no, and that was because his health was so poor.
He didn't want to relive it, sort of, in his own mind, as well. Probably.
Yeah. I also think he was embarrassed for anyone to come to his house and seeing the condition he was in. He let me talk to him through. He let me talk to him through a window.
Really?
Wow.
And that's he asked me to sign.
Yeah, sorry.
He asked me to sign his name on it, and I said I can't do that. It has to come from you, or else I would just write all over my own rifle. But.
It's just amazing. People don't see that, right? People don't see the behind the scenes. They only see the post. They only see you talking to them. They don't see the hours of driving. They don't see the efforts, like you said, writing letters in the beginning and all that stuff, managing all those messages on your Instagram. Because if you have a little bit of a following, I can attest to that as well. Like the amount of messages you get from people who always are pulling your sleeve.
Yeah,
it's just insane. And then filtering that out, people have no idea what's going on the behind the scenes, and the things that you already did and what you're still doing for those generations. And also now the next generations to come is just incredible. And then a lesson that you've learned from like the World War II veterans, what is like one lesson that you think every guy who is joining the military or is now into the military, what is something that you can tell them that you learned from the greatest generation?
Yeah, that's a loaded question, but I think one guy, I think of one guy that really, a lot of them taught me lessons, right, in different ways. But one thing that I think that I was really poor at was my patience and my temper. And a guy that helped me get under that control was a name of John Katsaros. And John was in the 8th Air Force. He was shot down over France. He was captured and rescued by the Reims police chief, and held and hidden by the police of Reims, France, during the occupation. And I brought him back to Paris or France in 2019, and we met the police chief's son that rescued him. And he really helped me with patience and attitude and temper, and taking a step back, and taking deep breaths, and not flying off the handle with certain stuff. And that's one thing he taught me, but really one thing that I can spread to all veterans is that just someone like Bob White, who didn't start running marathons until he was 65 years old. He was in the 17th Airborne and jumped into Operation Varsity. And his big thing, and what I've seen a lot of the veterans say, is always stay active. Keep your mind busy. Don't dwell on the past. Always have a hobby, activity. Stay involved. Keep your mind so busy that you don't have time to feel sorry for yourself. And a lot of these veterans I met retired from two different jobs. They retired from one job, got another job, and retired from that job. And I think that's a lot to be said.
That's something I've heard a few times as well. Like veterans that I've met in my life, they've all said the same thing. When they've got to a certain age, is they've all said remaining active and keeping your mind going is the key to life, I guess. And like you say, with aggression, it's being aggressive, but having controlled aggression, knowing when to utilize it and when not. Yeah,
I was, even if they didn't say it, their life showed it. And you could see, like, I remember this 102-year-old down in Pennsylvania. He was in the 34th Infantry Division. And he retired from one job as like the head of maintenance of a nursing home, retired from the J.C. Penney, which was a department store, and then took care of his disabled son. And his disabled son died in like his 70s. He made sure that his son, that he outlived his son to take care of his son. His son had, something like Down syndrome until his like mid to late 70s. And this guy was 100, wow, taking care of him.
Wow.
And then he died, and a year later the dad died, so
it's insane what in some conditions these veterans still are walking, talking. Like it's insane. Like Richard Baum and Frank Stella that we brought 2 weeks ago back to Normandy and Belgium. Like some of these veterans, 102 and 101 years old, like still perfect condition.
I know. I mean, I keep meeting them, and I'm like, all right, this is my last trip. I want to retire. This is my last trip. And then I keep meeting these guys that are still driving. Yeah. I'm like,
which is crazy, right?
You can drive your car. You're coming to Normandy. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
We can still get them behind a bar to pull the drinks, right? At 2 a.m.
Yeah, it's like, but the thing is, a smart man, a wise man would pull the plug before you have a veteran die on a trip. And when you're 100 plus, because nobody's under, if you were in World War II, your minimum age is 100 right now on the dot. And as if you were 18 in the war, right? So a 100-year-old man is not guaranteed to wake up in the morning. So for that, they might seem like they're in great health, but every time you bring them to Europe, it's a risk. It's a damn risk. We've had, I'm not afraid to say we had close calls over the years with veterans getting sick or and my priority is not just to bring them back to the battlefield. My priority was to um, get them home safe and not sick, because I'm not going to be able to live with myself if I'm bringing a veteran overseas and they get ill or hurt or sick. And people always say to me, well, Andy, it's their choice. They want to go. They'd be happy. They'd die with a smile on their face if they die with their friends and over. And I'm like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to
Yeah.
hear that. Okay,
Yeah, that
great.
doesn't
I'm
soften
stuck
the
with a
blow, does
body.
it?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
No, it's like, yeah, like,
you-
yeah, that's so easy. That's so easy for you to say, but I'm the one who's responsible.
Dude, I've seen it firsthand. You have your priorities straight. You're strict with it. Once something happened, it's act on it, and with like the quickest way possible. They're back on the flight home. They have medical attention. It's always so strict on it. Even family members from veterans did like toast during tours, saying how awesome the rifle organization is with the volunteers and how caring they are of the World War II veterans. Because yeah, it's not every organization that does it as well as the rifle trip does. I have to be completely honest with that. And like I said, family members even praise you for that as well. So you can definitely be proud of yourself, buddy, with that, putting them priority first.
Yeah, I've accomplished a ton. We've broken ground. I got an Emmy for a trip I did to Italy with veterans. We brought veterans back to almost every country liberated. I don't think I've done Czechoslovakia. I've never went back to North Africa or anything like that. But the one thing I still want to do is like one good YouTube Italy documentary, because, well, I have an Italy documentary, but you know what I mean. Stuff like you and what JD does, something that trends a lot and a lot of people see it, because the Italy campaign just does not get that attention. It doesn't get the attention it deserves. So I'm thinking maybe in September we could go, so.
Dude, let's make it happen. A good documentary. I made something, the video on Russell. A lot of good stuff in it. Good research. Let's make it happen. Yeah, so you've returned a lot of veterans now back to Europe, and for the people like who never had the opportunity to stand at the battlefield, like in the forest in Belgium or like on the beaches of France with a veteran who was there, who liberated that country, like that feeling of standing with those men who haven't been back since the war. It's like, could you describe that a little bit for people who never had that opportunity?
For a long time for me, it was like a high. It was like my drugs, I was addicted to it. I loved it. I loved seeing what the locals meant, what these veterans meant to the locals, kissing their hands, hugging them, crying, because their whole life they were taught that these were the men who liberated you. These are the heroes. That is something an American child will never get, never get. And it's not an insult to the American child or American person, because we all respect veterans, but respecting veterans and thanking veterans for liberating them is like two different things. So they'll never know what it's like, because we've never been like invaded and had our rights and lives taken away and stuff like that here in the United States, because guys went over to foreign lands to do that. So standing on the battlefield with these guys and saying, that's the house I was wounded in, that's the field I was shot in, that's the village I took shelter in, there's the tree I landed in when I jumped in. I've taken paratroopers back to Germany for Operation Varsity. I've taken paratroopers back to Normandy. I've taken paratroopers back to Holland. I've taken veterans who fought in the mountains of Italy, Monte Cassino. I've taken numerous people back to Belgium. I've taken Air Force guys back to their crash sites or back to their airfields. There hasn't much I haven't done, with far as bringing guys back. I've always made, and I stand by this, I've always made sure each veteran I take back to Europe is for a purpose. We are going to trace their footsteps to a T. We're not going to just parade them around every ceremony and get free lunches. I want to really bring them back to where they served, where they fought. That's important to me. I'm not wasting time. I'm not wasting donors' money, and I'm not risking the health of a veteran just to bring them to some bullshit rubbing elbows, backslapping event. This trip we just did, like we went to Omaha and Utah Beach with Frank Stellar and Richard Baum. Did either of those guys land on the first wave of Omaha Beach? No, they did not. No. We are so far, right, from World War II that it's nearly impossible to get those D-Day 0-hour veterans right back. People still do it. Some of them still are alive. I get that. But right now, the mission is to bring guys back who represent that whole generation. And so that's what we did with Richard Baum and Frank Stellar, and they deserved all the attention they got,
Yeah. I think Richard and Frank themselves thoroughly enjoyed that experience because their memories of the war is their own experiences, right? So to see the areas, especially the landings, where they certainly would have heard, and Frank talked about being in England when the planes went over for D-Day. So for him to actually visit the beaches where those planes were flying past and the boats were headed to, I think that meant a lot to Frank from the conversations I spoke to him and Richard as well. And also, don't forget, I think was at Utah Beach where Dan paid tribute to his father, right? From the 8th Infantry,
right?
If I'm wrong. That was special in itself, So it's not all about the World War II vets per se. Like seeing Dan was an emotional time for me, and I've got no right as an Englishman really, but it was phenomenal to see,
No, I mean, first of all, I appreciate that. And as far as I'm concerned, English and Americans have always been together fighting in every damn conflict you can think of. Yeah, I haven't even got into that part of the mixing of warriors and the generational stuff. I mean, the therapeutic stuff of these trips, right? So I just beat to a dead horse all the veterans I bring back and everything, and World War II this and World War II that. Now I'm pairing Iraq veterans and Vietnam veterans together, and Vietnam vets and Iraq vets shoulder to shoulder with World War II veterans on the battlefield. And that's a therapeutic mission. When I went back to Italy, I took Al Bucciarelli, who lost his leg in Italy, and him and Brian Johnson, who lost his leg in Fallujah, were together side by side on this trip to Italy. I mean, it was, when Brian saw Al saying Al's wearing a prosthetic leg into his 90s, I bet Brian said, hey, I could do that too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah, and especially when Brian gets to talk to him, right? And they get to bond for like a whole week together. That's you're never gonna see that anywhere else. Especially back on those World War II battlefields where they fought as well, and then sharing those experiences. Like you said, therapeutic. It's that you cannot gonna get anywhere else.
And
that makes
right.
sense.
And I almost
go on, sorry.
I forgot. Richard Baum, 20th Armored Division. It's no secret they came at the end of the war and fought like the last 30 days in southern Germany, Dachau, up to like Berchtesgaden area. Those guys had a really late combat chronicle, but they did see combat, and they saw some, especially the 65th Armored Infantry Battalion, which Richard was in. But he got to see Utah Beach and Omaha Beach, were the guys who paved the way for him. Though he likes to, he has said like, now I get to see where the guys who made Europe a safer place for me to come home gave their lives and fought the Germans and stuff like that. Then on this trip, we brought, I think, 5 Vietnam vets on the trip, or 4 of them.
4.
And
4.
So they're in no rush and hurry to get back to Vietnam, right? So why not take them to show them where their fathers served, their inspiration, help them understand what their dads went through. And those Vietnam vets deserve to see that, which is nice. You talked about Dan LeBlanc, who lost an arm in Vietnam, and he got to see where his dad landed. You got to see the countryside where his dad was captured with the 8th Infantry Division. So it's
and
really
John
just
with
this.
in Bastogne, John, with his father with the 101st.
These trips have been the trips have been like the gift that keeps on giving. I just wish I had unlimited funding for them.
Yes. Yeah. Like, dude, this last trip was absolutely phenomenal. I even had messages personally written to me, probably you as well. Like, dude, this was the best trip I've ever been on. It was absolutely amazing. The group, the shared stories, even from different generations, different wars. Like you said as well, the therapy that helps with it. Of course, the drinking in the evenings, the early mornings in the morning, but everything just combined. Like, people fucking loved it.
Yeah,
Richard
Baum sent me an email and he said it was the best time of his life.
Yeah, dude.
Wow,
there you go.
That's
How
pretty
fucking
powerful.
awesome is that?
That in itself is a testament to you, Andy. So, take pride in that for sure.
Yeah, 100%, man. So I don't want to get you too long, but we have 3 more questions for you. And first one is what I'm just going to do is like, what's your favorite place to visit on the European battlefields or the World War II battlefield besides Bastogne? Because I know you're going to say Bastogne. So first do your story on Bastogne, but I want to see like a second opinion as well. Like, what's the favorite place?
Yeah, so as you know, I'm a Bastogne snob because my grandfather fought there, and I think that the 10th Armored Division story is just amazing, holding, Bastogne for almost 17 to 19 hours before the 101st got there. How grateful the Belgians are. I mean, it is just like little America over there, some parts. But I also love Italy. I mean, I love the Gothic line in Italy. I mean, I've been to Italy without a metal detector, and you just kick your foot around, you find a grenade spoon, you find an M1 Grand barrel. So it's really hasn't been like infected with metal detecting and scavengers as much as like the Normandy countryside or the Dutch countryside. So like you really feel the war when you're in Italy. There's bullet holes still in like houses and villages, the poor people who haven't repaired them. The monuments are really nice, and it's such a small knit community over there that I really thoroughly enjoy the Florence and North area of the Battle of the Gothic Line, because here were these divisions that were left in Italy, right? So the other divisions got to invade southern France. They had the Normandy invasion, and the headlines are always like, oh, the Yanks are pushing across the Rhine. And meanwhile, these guys were left on these mountainous suicide missions in Italy just to keep those 30 German divisions. I think it was about 30 German divisions. They wanted to keep them in Italy. And Hitler didn't want to give up Italy. So there was some really gnarly fighting there.
I wouldn't mind sneaking just a quick one in. Obviously, on the trip, we went to Belleau Wood and you saw some of the World War I stuff. Has that sparked a little bit of interest? Have you read into anything since that, or is it kind of something you'll maybe visit in the future?
Shanning McDonald, I think he was Lance Corporal Shanning McDonald, was a police officer at my police department. In 1933, he had a coughing fit, and he died basically at the front desk of the police station. This was after he already had like 3 lung surgeries after being gassed at Belleau Wood. And a detective named Steve Rogers uncovered the story, and we did a little plaque for him on the wall, and they dedicated a street corner for him because he got like forgotten about. And so when I went back to Belleau Wood and saw a little bit of the battlefield, saw the Devil Dog Fountain, like it started to make me realize that I was standing like in his footsteps too. And so many other guys that, got forgotten about. And it always was an interest of mine. It has re-sparked it. I started watching a little bit stuff, like especially on the crater that you guys took us to. I started watching a little bit more on that. And I just can't believe how many people the British lost in World War I and World War II. It's like, I wish we could just learn from these wars and stop getting ourselves involved in so many stupid ass conflict.
Yeah. Well, welcome to
itself. You look at
welcome to
Ukraine
human
now
life.
from a bird's eye view, and they're in the zigzag trenches again.
Yeah,
it's absolutely
it's
insane,
crazy.
the similarities. So you know what? Like I said, I don't want to keep you longer. Just last 2 questions. We're gonna just fire them off. We ask these questions to everybody, and everybody comes with a different response. If you can sit down with one person from history, who would it be and why? And what would you say to them?
This question gets everyone.
If you want, you can. Yeah, this question you can have two, because probably one of the guys is probably your grandfather.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it would have to one. It's oh man, it's tough because his family I'd love to go back and sit down with. But then like if you don't, obviously I'd love to sit down with my grandfather and learn more about the Battle of Bastogne through his eyes, and he was wounded in Bastogne, then rejoined the 10th Army. They got wounded again on April 2nd in Germany. They pushed way too far out. They were near Eiselhofen and Kralsheim, and they got surrounded. And his half track hit a mine. And so, but I mean, I just think sitting down with Dwight D. Eisenhower would be insane. I watched a article on him when he went back to Normandy, either in 1955 or 1965. I forget which one. He went back to Normandy, I think, in the early 60s. It was like the 20th anniversary of Normandy or something like that. And seeing him, like, he cried and talked about the men that he sent to their deaths that day. I mean, I just think, that the weight of the world was on his shoulders. And by the time Lyndon B. Johnson, I think, was president, Lyndon B. Johnson was trying to confide into Ike on how to fix the Vietnam War at the time. And Ike had gone through, I think, like 2 or 3 heart attacks by then. So, and then, of course, becoming president and stuff like that. But I just think sitting with him would be incredible for my head is at, if you weren't excluding family from that answer. So.
It's funny because everybody has a different one. We haven't heard Dwight D. Eisenhower as well from our previous one. So it's always cool to just hear the different answers from people.
And the follow-up from that. So if you could observe one historic event, what would it be? So that, imagine you're a fly on the wall or a drone above a battlefield, one event, and you're not allowed to say the Boston Tea Party.
Yeah. How many people say D-Day? Everyone must say that, right?
Nope.
No. We had one person say he would love to observe the building of the pyramids. My answer is I would love to be a drone looking at the Battle of Rorke's Drift or Isandlwana when we fought the Zulu Wars in 1879, I think it was. But yeah, there's been a range of answers.
Yeah, mine is like the Punic Wars with the Romans against the Carthaginians.
Yeah, mine's really honestly, there's I would say seeing D-Day, I mean, on the beaches, or just seeing, like, being on the German side and seeing that. But one real close thing that I always think about, imagine if I was here, is the Battle of Gettysburg. When I go down there and you just see, I mean, I'm talking, you can't go 20 feet without hitting a monument in Gettysburg. So what they did was they came back and they put monuments on their positions. Like, here was the 20th Maine. Here was the 11th Massachusetts Snipers. Here was the Pennsylvania group. Like, so it's like so imagine those monuments, but now imagine them as people, and the way they used to march into battle and stuff like that. So that was something I always wanted to see also from, like, a bird's eye view, or as Pickett's charge in Gettysburg. But D-Day is up there too on because I go back and I look at those bluffs on Omaha Beach, and I'm like, you think of that, you think of Saving Private Ryan, where they had that one cement pillbox that was just kind of killing everybody, and they use a flamethrower on it. I know a lot of that stuff's not there, wasn't there anymore. It was destroyed, or where those machine gun positions and nests were. Was there, trenches of infantry up on those bluffs there? How many guns were actually, firing on that beach? Because I know you have like the 288 pillboxes that are still there, but I believe there was more that they got rid of, buried, or destroyed too. So
Yeah, I think that'd be cool to see the whole line as well. Utah all the way down,
Dude.
down all 5 of the beaches, Point de Hoc as well. Just
Yeah,
hovering
seeing the
above that.
planes, the ships, just the whole
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
going off, kicking off. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
The flag and blah blah blah.
yeah, so it's to me, it's like, I would say, D-Day, then probably Gettysburg would be my close second.
Nice,
Interesting
good
choices.
answers.
Yeah.
They're cool.
I
Yeah.
like it, yeah. So now I want to just say because you need to head out, of course. So that's why it's a little bit shorter than normal. Normally we aim for like an hour 15 minutes, but this is all good. Really want to thank you for being on air, Andy, sharing your story as well, and also thank you for what you're doing for the history, the veterans, for everybody around with the books and all that stuff. So I know we didn't get to talk a lot about Vietnam, but I would like to invite you back on in the future and just talk about Vietnam, the whole episode, about your book as well.
Yeah.
That's coming up now. So is
Yeah,
there
let's do
anything
it
else?
again. It gives us.
Is there anything else that's coming up with you? Like you said, the new book, the new Vietnam book, but anything more or?
Yeah. No, right now I'm still interviewing Vietnam vets. I'm on a deadline to have that book submitted to the publisher in August, and then we'll be on the Vietnam rotation, So I'll probably be looking at somewhere permanent to put the rifle soon. It's covered in almost 500 names, so.
Yeah, insane.
Crazy.
Insane. Yeah, Andy, thanks for what you're doing. I'm gonna say this now. Don't click off yet because we have to upload it and download it. So don't click away. But Andy, thank you. Really appreciate it. And you're an amazing friend and amazing guy. So
Yeah, thank you, mate. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for all the help both of you guys gave us on that trip to Normandy.
No
My
worries.
pleasure.
Least we could do.